Just off the Mackenzie River Scenic Byway, OR Road 126, east of Eugene, Oregon, the Lookout Creek Trail is a 3-mile route through a classic ancient forest of Douglas fir, cedar, and hemlock conifers, along with big leaf and vine maple. While lacking spectacular viewpoints, it is an opportunity to witness the many layers of life here: overstory, understory, riparian zone, soil, trees in all stages of growth from nurse log saplings to giants more than 500 years old. We are not young. We are not in a hurry. We like to study the landscape features and the small details, the flora, the fauna, the long arc of geological history.
We believe, like Aristotle, that in all things of nature there is something of the marvelous. We are Elizabeth and Terry. We are two on a trail. Good morning. It's a beautiful day in late June. We are here at the Lookout Creek Old Growth Trail in the Andrews Experimental Forest. And we're on this trail just to see what we can see in terms of how the forest regenerates itself.
Well, I didn't know we were going to go downhill.
I didn't either.
You can hear Lookout Creek off to my right. That's the drainage through here.
This beautiful moss.
Since time immemorial, indigenous people have been stewards of the forests, streams, and meadows we now call the Blue River watershed. In the mid-1800s, these people were forced to cede this land they loved, and many of their descendants are members of the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde and Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indians, who still live and thrive here. The Andrews Experimental Forest is a 16,000-acre living laboratory where scientists study the effects of natural processes and human actions on soils, fish, wildlife, vegetation, and water quality. It was established in 1948 to study the effects of road building and logging on forest regeneration, but in the early 1970s, the focus shifted to a study of the forest ecosystem as a whole, with the goal of understanding how to create conditions which lead to the long-term sustainability of the forest. During periods of heavy rain in the winter, Lookout Creek is transformed from a clear stream to a muddy torrent. This is when log jams are built and destroyed, boulders are tumbled, and the stream bed rearranged.
In February of 1996, a massive debris flow of rocks, mud, and uprooted trees swept down Lookout Creek, ripping out a portion of Road 1506, our access road today. The data collected as a result helps the public to better understand and plan for future flood events. While we look overhead and admire the beauty and variety of these living trees, we should also look down and around at the hidden processes of change that occur after a tree falls to the forest floor. It's called decomposition and can take as long as 800 years to complete. What happens in these years is a complex and fascinating process dominated by the presence of insects, bacteria, and fungi, which transform the woody cellulose of the tree into soil. About 30% of the biomass of the forest is in trees living above ground, while the same amount is in soil. The rest of the biomass is in roots, litter and duff, snags, and downed dead wood, those in the process of transformation into soil. Scientists have found that 26% of forest nitrogen is above ground and 56% on the forest floor, which means that the fallen tree gains minerals and nitrogen while losing its woody tissues. This is actually this is a cedar, I think. But it's got the sword fern and the Oregon grape on it, but it has these hemlocks growing out of it. And this is the root mass of the cedar. And so actually the hemlocks are growing on the root mass of the tree. It's a beautiful little deer fern. Upside down here, Sloth. The decaying wood becomes a sponge, accumulating plant litter and nutrients, a perfect nursery for many plant species, from mosses and wildflowers to baby trees. In the end, the tree becomes a mound dominated by fungi, its high moisture content a reservoir during summer droughts. You have to remember that we're walking on roots, and that's what's keeping this path stable and what's keeping this hillside stable. Tree roots. Much of the life of the forest is small-scale and invisible to us. We have observed the larval galleries of wood-boring beetles, which lay their eggs by boring into the bark. When the eggs hatch into larvae, they tunnel through the inner, tender bark before pupating and then emerging as adults. Some wood-boring beetles, particularly those infesting pine trees, can cause real damage and kill trees. But some insects have evolved to keep the wood-boring beetles in balance. These are the parasitic ichneumon wasps, like this female with her coiled ovipositor. A few males swooped around her, but she remained on the log as I photographed her. When she is ready to lay her eggs, she searches the log with her antennae, looking for beetle larvae. She drills into the bark with her ovipositor, finds and paralyzes the larva, then lays her egg onto the surface of the larva. When the egg hatches, it feeds on the beetle larva. These beautiful wasps are important checks on the population of wood-boring beetles.
I just love the shapes of things, the shadows, the different shades of color. all out here. The mosses. The colors of the barks. The dappled light.
We are at the top of our trail. What we decided was the top. We've had a little bit of a snack and now we're heading back down. There were no great views, although when we sat and had our snack, there was a little view out to the other side, to the ridge on the other side of the watershed, which is the other side of, or the other boundary of this forest. Most of the time there's been a really rich understory on this trail. Haven't come to any places that are totally barren. Maybe one or two that are maybe 5 or 10 feet wide. Mostly it's this mixture. And the understory is shade tolerant, or it gets enough light to survive. Saw a bumblebee or a bee of some kind. Saw an ant. Heard the Swainson's thrush and the Pacific wren. Other than that, it's been really quiet. Kind of allows your brain to expand, your mind to expand. I like this idea that when the tree falls, that it needs to be opened up. And maybe analogous to that is when we're here, we need things to open us up to what we're seeing, what's really here.
In late June 2023, we hiked the Lookout Creek Trail. Now in late August, as we begin to edit our footage, a fire is burning on the ridges above the forest, and the surrounding areas are completely closed. Webcams allow us to follow the progress of the fire. We hope that some of the forest will be spared, remembering the green depths we visited, mindful that the only constant is change.